And I'm calling it right here. Kellen Moore, head coach. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like that I'm cheering for Kellen Moore to be our head coach, but he just checks all the boxes. He checks all the boxes that I'm looking for. I know he's 33 years old. I know he's young. But we said the same thing about Sean McVay. We said the same thing about Kyle Shanahan. What did Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan do? They might have been young. They led their team to a Super Bowl. Sean McVay led Jared Goff to a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan led Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl. Okay, young head coaches are good. They are. Young head coaches are great. Young offensive-minded head coaches lead your team to Super Bowl runs. Now you can say, well, of course, they had a good, what was it? Robert Saleh was in charge of their defense, and the 49ers defense was the reason why that they made the Super Bowl. However, Kyle Shanahan was an excellent, excellent head coach. You like Patterson as our head coach? I don't agree. I just don't see it. Like Patterson, I love the guy. Andre Patterson should have been our interim head coach. The Minnesota Vikings should have fired Mike Zimmer halfway through the season, at least. And if it wasn't halfway through the season, Zimmer should have lost his job after we lost to the Lions. Andre Patterson should have been our interim head coach with the team, and we could have seen what he was able to do. Yeah, I don't like him as our head coach. He's just not what we're looking for. I love Andre Patterson as a defensive guy. I absolutely love him. Like, if you've been tuning into the channel, you know how much I'm of a Mike or of an Andre Patterson fan I am, because he has developed some of the best defensive linemen. Everson Griffin became a household name because of Andre Patterson. Danielle Hunter became an All-Pro and Pro Bowler because of Andre Patterson. I love the guy. He develops young guys, and we see what he's doing with Armon Watts right now. We see what he's doing with Kenny Willekes. Okay, these are no-name guys coming out of college that come with this Vikings team, and Andre Patterson make them look like superstars. I love the guy, but not as our head coach. Why? Because we need a young offensive-minded head coach. We need a young offensive-minded head coach who can work with a quarterback, build a quarterback head coach relationship, and build around that quarterback. Why? Because this is what works. This is a copycat league. This is a league where you have to see what works for other teams and what doesn't work for other teams. What worked for the Rams was bringing in Sean McVay, a young offensive-minded head coach who now is still one of the best in the league. He is. He's one of the best head coaches in the league. Same goes for Kyle Shanahan. They both led their teams to Super Bowls. Why? Because they're young, offensive-minded head coach. We see the same thing going with Matt LaFleur, and we give Matt LaFleur a little bit of credit, too much credit here, because Matt LaFleur has Aaron Rodgers. At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is their head coach and their team. Still, Matt LaFleur is a great head coach and will likely be the coach of the year. The league's coach of the year this year will be Matt LaFleur, most likely. I believe that would happen. And then on top of that, with some other names to mention here, because I go on and on. Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury. This is exactly what I'm talking about. What did the Cardinals do? Why are the Cardinals in the playoffs right now? Because they brought in a offensive-minded head coach, a young offensive-minded head coach, and they got a quarterback. I mean, we don't have a first overall draft pick. We're not going to get a Kyler Murray, obviously. But still, they brought this in, and what do you see when you watch the Cardinals play? A great relationship between the head coach and quarterback. An excellent relationship between the head coach and quarterback, and that is so crucial. That is so important in the NFL, and that's one of the most important things when you're rebuilding a team, because you get a quarterback or you get a head coach who can get you a quarterback, they build a relationship, then you build around that quarterback. That works with teams. That works with teams. See, and this is what I'm saying, because I understand that Kellen Moore is way too young. He is. He's 33 years old. If Kellen Moore came as our head coach and Kirk Cousins was our head coach still in 2022, if Kellen Moore came with his team, he's only 2 months older than Kirk Cousins, okay? See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. One problem with very young guys is they don't get as much respect, okay? Mike Zimmer was respected. From our Vikings defense and our offense, they all respected Mike Zimmer. He's an older guy. He's an OG is what he is. He's been in the league a long time. He knows football. They respect him. One thing a lot of people that hold a lot of young-minded head coach, young-minded people back, is they don't like looking up to young guys. It's just facts. This is just how the workplace works, and this is just how the world works, where younger guys don't get as much respect. However, with that being said, the thing about Kellen Moore, he does get respect. And he did in his offense. They respected him a lot. Dak Prescott, the entire offense, respected him as their play caller and their offensive mind. They respected the guy and they loved the guy. What's to say he can't do the same with the Vikings? What's to say that he can't come with his Vikings team and do the same? Now, I know it's a shot in the dark, and it is risky to bring in Kellen Moore as a head coach, but he's my number one pick because I'd rather take a shot in the dark and try to hit on the next big head coach than going with a Doug Peterson, than going with a Leslie Frazier, than going with a Brian Flores, someone who's is going to be a good head coach, but I want to take a shot in the dark and try to get a great head coach. That is what I want. That is what I want. That is what I want because that's the biggest need for the Vikings. Because in all honesty, I think what we all can agree on, whoever you depend on, whoever you're for the next Vikings head coach, we're not going to be competing in 2022. It's not going to happen. I mean, I don't care what the Will family says. I don't care what anybody says. Vikings will likely, I mean, when I say compete in 2022, I'm not talking about just making a playoffs. Vikings might make a playoff run in 2022. It might happen because this is the Vikings team that we cheer for. We really don't know what the season is going to bring when we're going into the season. Vikings might come out, make the playoffs. Yeah, they're not going to compete in the NFC. They're not going to make a Super Bowl run out of the NFC with all these opposing teams that we have. And worst case scenario is, like I said with this year, worst case scenario is the Vikings make the playoffs because we're going to get humiliated in the playoffs. We will. We'll get humiliated in primetime, and then we're going to end up with a bad draft pick. That's the worst case scenario for the next year for the Minnesota Vikings. Which is why right now, what I'm saying is that you got to get a young offensive-minded head coach like Kellen Moore. Now, Kellen Moore is one name. He's one name that I've been talking about. But I want to get a young offensive-minded head coach. I want to get the next big name for an offensive-minded head coach. Try to get a Sean McVay. Try to get a Kyle Shanahan. Try to get a Matt LaFleur. Try to get a Cliff Kingsbury. Try to get a Kevin Stefanski. That's what I want. That's what I want. Imagine if Mike Tomlin was our head coach right now. We probably would have won a Super Bowl. No, we would have won a Super Bowl by now with the amount of talent that we have coming to this organization. If we promoted Mike Tomlin to head coach and we had Chad Greenway and Jared Allen still on our defense with Mike Tomlin as our head coach, I mean, we would be elite. Now, the problem is hopefully we wouldn't have ended up drafting Christian Ponder. That's the only thing that holds me back right there. But we probably would have made a run for a Super Bowl. No, I'm all in on Byron Leftwich. That Byron Leftwich is my top 3 pick. If I was going to rank them, and I already ranked them, I had Kellen Moore as number 1, I had Brian Dable as number 2, and Byron Leftwich as number 3. That's my top 3, and that's very even right there. Why? Because what I'm looking at here is I want to I'm a risky guy. Okay, I like taking shots on zeros. I like taking shots on anything that has high upside. Because that's what our Vikings organization needs. You take a shot on Byron Leftwich. You take a shot on Brian Dable. You take a shot on Kellen Moore. Yes, it's not a safe pick. They might be duds. Then you just take a shot on a new head coach. I'm looking for a top 5 head coach in the league is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a good head coach. I'm looking for a great head coach. If we wanted a good head coach, we could bring in John Harbaugh. If we wanted a good head coach, we can bring in the Doug Peterson. We can bring in some Leslie Frazier. Okay, I don't know why people bring him, but he's not a good head coach. He's a terrible candidate. We already know how that went with the Vikings. We want a good head coach. We can bring in Brian Flores. Like, there's a lot of names out there that we could bring in as good head coaches. I want to take shots on zeros. I want to Russian roulette this crap, and I want to go for a big next name head coach. That's what I want to play.